Hi, I'm Corey,
I'm Bill.
and together we host the In Focus podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Gnome Recording Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll tell you all about Gnome Studios at the end of the show. Today, we're joined by Emmy Award-winning director and owner of Skydive Films, Zac Adams. Zac, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, guys. Thanks so much.
So fun today. I know you and Bill, you actually have a pretty long history. I would love, because everybody loves a good origin story. How do you two know each other?
A good superhero origin story.
It's been 16 years.
Has it been 16 at
I
this
think
point?
it was January of 2005.
Yeah.
Really?
I can't
So,
believe it's been that long already.
Yeah, over 16 years. What's
So,
happened?
How did you guys first meet?
We were at a church function, and I heard someone mention Watkins Film School in a conversation, and of course I stopped and very rudely interrupted and said, "What Watkins? Who are you? I went there."
Yeah.
And we just, "Hey, I'm Bill. Hey, I'm Zac. Cool."
And I was still in school. That was like
Yeah.
my last semester.
Yeah.
So you were asking me about what I talked about in my episode, my final film.
Yep.
And we'd worked with the same actress.
That's
And
right.
that's how we kind of started talking about that.
You're right.
And you were like a legend at Watkins.
Oh,
So I'd heard your name before. And I was like, oh, it's Zac Adams that they always talk about in class? Because you were like the guy who was working.
That he was terribly disappointed once the meeting happened.
But you were like the guy who went to Watkins and was working actively in the industry, which, back then in the early O's, that wasn't like common.
Not at all.
Because there wasn't a lot of work.
That's true. Nashville had just started to become an up-and-coming filmmaking community. I mean, again, this was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that what it is now?
Wow. All right. And all this time later, now look at you guys.
I know.
And here we are on a Sunday morning, reminiscing. I love it. But yeah, it was your short Lavorcia.
It was, yes.
Wait, Lavorcia was your final film school project?
Yeah.
Oh.
We talked about that.
Well, we talked about Lavorcia and how you were not incredibly proud of it.
But I was.
That was not one you said was a disaster?
No.
Oh.
It won awards at the Gatlinburg Screen Fest, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
It did well.
Maybe I'm thinking about my computer.
You're thinking of my computer.
My
My
computer.
computer.
Yeah, we don't
We don't discuss.
we don't discuss my computer. That was right before. So this is funny. We met in 2005, and then you would like occasionally drop in on me with like email, and you'd be like, "Are you still in town? Are you still here?" And then like a year or two went by, and then you hired me on the Eddie P. Briley shoots.
As the assistant director, because he had been doing some directing and stuff. And
Nice.
that was summer of 2007.
Yeah.
And we were shooting on HD, which, let me tell you, Corey, back in 2007, nobody was shooting high definition. It was like, wow.
That's true, yeah.
It's just you guys and George Lucas, and that's it. Not really,
Yeah,
but
I had almost forgotten that there was a transition period then between standard def and high def.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of clients didn't know the difference between the two when it was moving over because of periphery.
Right.
Like a lot of people still couldn't watch HD.
Yeah,
Because there was some tube TVs out there still.
I mean, you could say the same today with like, we got cameras, we're shooting 8K every day, and
That's true.
people like still you watch it online, it's 1080p.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, back then I remember it was like I'm on an HD music video shoot with like a crew of more than 2 people. This is amazing. I'm
getting
living the dream.
Paid.
Yeah,
There was actual real money.
It was.
So that was exciting. And it was hot. We did 2 back-to-back, I think. It was like 4 days shoot, and we shot in my house in Nashville. We shot in Gallatin with BJ.
At the shit bar.
Yeah. Oh, we could say that. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
On the call sheet, it said interior shit bar. Because BJ would call it, now we're going to shoot at shit bar tomorrow now.
And I saved that call sheet. I still have it. I found it recently just because it's so good. Interior shit bar day. And it was.
I mean,
it was exactly.
And it needed no description underneath that. It's like, okay, you know.
Yeah, you know what
you're walking into.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Zach, you've had like a really great range of projects over the years. I know you've been a part of short form, long form narratives, which I think we'll talk about your latest short here in just a little bit. Documentaries, music videos, commercials, like you've run the whole gamut. Is there one of those genres in particular that you prefer over the others?
I've always, considered myself a narrative filmmaker, but everything else pays the bills. It's kind of one of those things where eventually I want to do my own, hopefully horror feature film, which, Corey, I know you're a big horror movie diehard fan. But yeah, we've done everything from commercials, like you said, music videos, industrials, things like that. And we just want to tell a story, whether it's 30 seconds or an hour and a half. So we just consider ourselves storytellers.
And speaking of the horror stuff, so I know when you got interested in filmmaking, we've talked about this, like you were a kid and you used to make like haunted houses, right?
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, when I was in 5th grade, I just had this infatuation with making haunted houses, and I would be doing kind of pre-production. Basically, I would come up with the idea. I'd get my friends to jump out. Alden, one of my best buddies, he was always the tall guy, so he was like Freddy Krueger. I would find people older than me that were taller that would be more intimidating than a 9-year-old jumping out and scaring somebody. And so I would write down the ideas in June or July and then start getting the props. And then, of course, we had it like the week before Halloween. And then I would market it. I'd put posters and drop off flyers. And so, in essence, I was a filmmaker but didn't know it. Mm-hmm. So I was doing the pre-production, the production, and then the whole marketing aspect, except there were no cameras.
Right.
It was just me being creative and making these haunted houses with my friends.
And it's interesting that that's in the horror genre as well. I feel like horror is such a gateway drug for filmmakers. I feel like so many start there because of the freedom that allows you. Like you can be as crazy and out there and creative as you want. And in the context of like a B-rated horror film, really like anything goes. And I think you really can learn and really grow into your creative process that way as well.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree.
Like the only 2 shorts I've done, one's a psychological horror, and then the other's like starting to now cross the line into a little more monster and like knives and stuff. So
was Sweet Tooth, was that your first horror film with like a budget?
Yeah.
On it? Yeah,
I think so. That was 2016. So myself, Mike Stryker, who you know, and Mark Allen Peters kind of came up with this concept, and we talked about it, and we just finally did it. And we just wanted to, do something narrative, again, to show people that we don't just do documentaries or commercials or corporate or music videos, that we can also do narrative projects as well. And so it just took off from there, and we had a blast doing it.
And you had a pitch meeting in L.A.
We did.
To talk about the feature, right?
Yes, with Stephen Knapp. That was about a year or so later. They saw the short, and we just, pitched them different ideas. And actually, one of your scripts got synced as well.
Yeah, we talked about that.
For Stephen, so that was awesome.
So that short, and I feel like this is probably common for many shorts, is the intent was more proof of concept.
Yes,
like
exactly.
a calling card for a larger budgeted, like full feature potentially, right?
It is, and the film was about 17 minutes long, so it's kind of tough to market something like that on YouTube. It's on there, right. And it's won actually a few festivals, things like that. We shot it on the same camera that they shot A Conjuring 2 on. Well, the sister version of it, Mini Area Alexa. So it looked good and cinematic, and so we just, Mike and I saved up for several months, and we said we're going to do this right or not do it. A DSLR, cell phone, something like that. And, we just did it.
And I remember, it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super good story.
And Josh was the DP. I got to give him credit, Josh Shreve.
Yeah. Yeah,
oh, really?
I worked on that film for one day.
That's right. You have a funny story
on
about
the
that.
Inserts.
Yeah, that's right. Bill did work on it.
And that was my first exposure to the Area Alexa. And that camera is terrifying to me, only because of how expensive it is.
Yes.
The lens, we had like Zeiss prime lenses.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the lens that was on there alone was as much as my car.
Yes.
And
Yeah, like that build is probably a nice starter home.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We actually paid a guy $100 a day, a PA, just to sit there for 10 hours and watch the lenses. That's all he had to do. Play on his phone all day. But
was that on the day I was there too?
No,
because I believe I was watching them.
Yes, you were.
Because I remember the fear. But I remember I had to swap lenses at one point. It was like docking the space shuttle. It was like I got to be very careful. If there's one little ding, the whole thing is gonna fall apart. But of course, that's being over dramatic. But yeah, there was
it's
a
good
point.
You were so concerned. I was concerned too because we don't own that camera, and if something happens to it, we have to pay for it.
Yes, exactly.
So, Bill, what were you doing on set today?
I was doing some first AC stuff.
Okay.
Just for the one day. I think that was the last day, just getting pickups.
Yeah, pickups of let's see, a few close-up shots and exterior shots of the house at daytime, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha.
On our fun rigged
homemade dolly
track.
We had to turn in the other dolly, so we had to.
So you had to improvise.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially when the ground is not level, there's a lot of sandbagging and apple boxes involved to make
whatever it takes.
And we're all independent filmmakers, so it's great to do that. You have to do that.
Yeah, and
to make it work.
And that's the thing about being an independent filmmaker, and 80% of what you're doing on set is problem solving. A lot of times, and you improvise a lot, and you try to use what limited resources you have to make something work. It's all about creating the illusion ultimately. Mm-hmm. So if we're using like way back in the day when we used to use those Home Depot like floodlights to light a scene, and it's like, no, that definitely in the behind the scenes pictures that looks
awful.
Not very sexy, and but on camera it works because you do what you got to do with a small budget, not a lot of resources. You improvise, you try to be as flexible as you can. It makes you so. Then when you do get a budget, like a bigger budget, you can use that budget more efficiently because we've learned how to make do with little. And
absolutely.
You get 20 grand for a film, and it's like $1 million for us.
Oh my gosh, what?
We can do everything with that.
Last budget was $1,000. It's great.
Totally different. Game changer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about Skydive Films. I know BJ Brown, the late great BJ, was the founder of that company. How did you meet him, and then how did you get involved with Skydive?
I met him, I'm trying to think, I think around 2002, 2003. Gosh. We met somewhere on set. I don't even recall. I should. Because, normally I'm so great with numbers and dates and this and that. But it was almost 20 years ago, and we met and just connected, had a lot in common. And he was a doer. If you remember BJ, if he said he was going to do something, he was there. If he said he'll be on set at 10 a.m., he was there at 9 a.m. Like he was the real deal. And so I like that because there's so many flakes in this industry. And so we just teamed up and started working on projects together.
And it was like Southern Haunts initially, wasn't it?
Right. We did a series for regional PBS, I think 6 or 7 episodes. And it was kind of like the history / folklore of hauntings in the South. And so we went to Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, even did one in Nashville and Kentucky. Yeah. New Orleans was a blast.
And that's through that show is how Billy Bob Thornton got on the radar, wasn't it? Like he had watched it? Or?
Yeah, like on his tour bus years and years ago, like in 2007 or 2008, something like that. Mm-hmm.
And you and BJ, you and BJ met him when you went to do something with Lynn Hoffman? Is that what it was? Or
yes, in Merrimack Hall.
That's okay. That's
which is in Huntsville, Alabama. They were doing a show there, and then Lynn was had her own show called Private Sessions on A&E, and Lynn asked me to film it, and that's how we all kind of met. JD, and Teddy, everybody.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The Boxmasters.
They were brand new back in 2007. They had just started their band.
Nice.
So they were on tour.
And now you've done more work with the Boxmasters since then, right?
Yeah, we've done a few music videos. Actually, Bill's been on set for several of them over the years, and hopefully we'll do more soon now that the pandemic is slowly kind of
easing its way out,
making an exit very slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just, very creative, great bunch of people. And so, but we just love making music videos as well.
Yeah.
And the thing about them is that they love working with you and the team, and they prefer that over some of the Hollywood. I know Billy has a lot of strong opinions about the Hollywood system.
Very, very strong.
Yeah. So he loves to work with, some guys from Nashville that have a passion for it and are independent, and I think that's a breath of fresh air for him with all the.
Well, that's where he started off too, growing up dirt poor in rural Arkansas. No one gave him anything, and he had to work his way up as well. So he remembers that.
Yeah.
So I think that's another reason they like working with us.
And he's such an interesting guy, just generally. Like, I've never met him. I've never been on set. If you ever need some extra hands, let me know. But just his persona of what you know of him, just in general, just seems like just such an interesting dude.
Yeah, very intelligent too.
Yeah,
he can talk about pretty much any subject, whether it's filmmaking, writing, politics, sports, you name it. He knows it.
And just a nice, down to earth guy too. Super humble.
Just an old country boy from Arkansas.
Yeah, exactly. Playing Angry Birds on his phone in between.
Oh, that's right. Walking around Adams, Tennessee. Yes. Remember that on the shoot? Yeah. Population 500 people. He's just walking around.
Yeah.
By himself. Which I love that town too. Bill's been there several times. We did a project together called The Bell Witch Legend, which is a folklore. It's the oldest ghost story in North America, and that was a fun shoot. And that was pretty much Bill and I did the whole thing. We had no crew.
Standard def. This was back
mini DV,
pre HD.
Mini DV.
Yes.
Was it the XL2?
Yes, it was.
And what was your nickname for the?
I called that camera Baby.
Baby.
I don't even remember why now. It's
was
been
your
so
baby.
long.
Probably
it's probably
it
because
like
it was
your
my
own
baby, because I couldn't afford anything else back then.
Yeah.
So I was happy to have something like that.
Well, those now you can probably get on eBay for $300, but
or less.
Yeah, but I mean, in 2005, 2006, weren't they like $5,000?
Yeah. I mean, they were your typical what you'd see now for a prosumer camera.
Right.
Back then, which is crazy.
And I feel like I'll probably get fact check on this, but I feel like, and we talked about this in the last episode, I'm pretty sure 28 Days Later was shot on the XL2, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they used like the $200,000 Hollywood lenses.
Right.
That's what they don't tell you in the press release.
Well, I remember when I got that camera, I was like, I'm gonna get the XL2 because it's got interchangeable lenses. This is so awesome. And then I never swapped the factory lens out.
And it was 24p. Oh my gosh, it looks just like film. And now you're like, no.
Well, you and I, speaking of 24p, 3 years ago, we met the dude who was one of the pioneers of 24p.
You're right, we did.
Who was that? What was his name?
Oh, I don't remember. That was 3 years ago out in L.A., but remember, he was from Clarksville, Tennessee. I was like, small world, but he had been out in L.A. for 20, 25 years. Didn't he win a contest and direct a Michael Jackson video or something like that?
Yeah,
back
he did
in the
something
80s?
like that. I wish I could remember his name, but I know he...
Was it Robert Faber?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
I cannot remember his name. We met him once. Supposed to be a 30-minute meeting, lasted like 4 hours.
Yeah, well, he had a studio in East L.A.
That's right. And they were filming green screen. It was fun. That's right. That was about...
And I think he had won an Oscar for something in the 80s because his Oscar was in a junky cabinet with a bunch of papers around it. And I remember seeing it in this cabinet being okay.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting thing to pass by when you're walking through here. Never said anything about it.
I remember driving up to the studio. We're like, where are we? This looks like the set of Training Day.
Yes. I had to make sure I wasn't wearing gang colors. I had put a jacket over my flannel I was wearing.
A different day.
Yep. Yeah.
Crazy.
I forgot about that. That was a fun time.
And we ate at the fish tacos place.
Yeah.
That was right.
With Ross.
With Ross, the guy who's the Wolverine impersonator on Hollywood Boulevard.
He's been doing that for years and looks just like him.
Looks
it makes
just like Hugh Jackman.
Damn good money doing it, too. He told us what he was making. I was like, what? Good for you.
And he's just like, hey, you want to get some fish tacos?
Like, yeah.
Yes, please.
In East LA.
And they were like $1 each. And they were phenomenal.
From a place called Fish Tacos. That was the name of the hut that we got these.
Best marketing.
Yes.
They just know.
Exactly.
Tell us about a recent production that maybe really pushed you to your limits creatively.
I would say working on we have a new feature wrestling documentary that I was a co-producer and work with the director, Sergio Valenzuela, in spending a year working with him editing, trying to find the right story out of 75 hours of footage was tough.
What?
Yes, and we got distribution. Adam Carolla's company picked it up, so it comes out later this spring or summer. And just, working with him on that, going through, hours and hours and hours of footage that him and his crew had shot. And I was hired to come there, write the voiceover, and then help figure out the story.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know you've been a part of several documentaries, but I think there's probably a couple of different approaches that documentary filmmakers take. Either you know the story that you want and you shoot to that, or you know that there's a story, but it doesn't necessarily come through until, to your point, you get to the edit and you start to piece the story together.
Yeah, we did the basics of the story. I think it was just going to the footage, making sure nothing's too repetitive to the audience, because sometimes you can do that in documentaries. And this film was about 84 minutes long. And the first edit was 3 hours, then 2 hours. And I was like, this is not a 2-hour story. It just can't be. Definitely not 3 hours. So just going through this footage with Sergio and our Chance, our other executive producer, was very challenging. It was fun, but it was a challenge.
And you weren't there on set or anything, so
no.
you had no idea until you looked at the footage what you even had.
There were 2 different crews. The first crew got fired, and then they hired Sergio's team, and then Sergio called me up and was like, help. We gotta let's see if we can work this out, and we need someone to kind of help flesh the scenes and write some voiceover. And I've been doing that 15 years and kind of know how to do that somewhat at this point, and just kind of where that stuff goes and the timing and the editing. But sometimes, Sergio was the director, and he had seen this footage hundreds of times, and so it's the point where let me bring in someone else that hasn't seen anything.
Right.
And we even brought in one of my apprentices, Cynthia, for 4 or 5 months after Sergio and I had worked on it for many months. Same type thing. Okay, what's your opinion? Honestly, does this scene work? Is it too long? And then she would give us
the fresh eyes.
Well, exactly. And that really helped.
And this shoot was in post-production for how long?
About a year. Yeah.
So hear me now type.
Yeah. But it was. It was seriously almost 100 hours of footage for what the first crew did, the second crew, figuring out which interviews to use, which sound bites, because sometimes the camera would just roll and it wouldn't cut, and they would go just ramble. And you had to just go through and just dissect it, which can be very tedious, but at the same time, it's rewarding because we're happy with how it turned out.
Right.
And see, when you're not on set, it makes it a little more challenging when you do get to post-production, because again, you don't know what you're dealing with till you review every last second of footage. At least when you're on set, you have the luxury of knowing before you get into editing what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that's just I know that's Luke Dye, who we know, that's his day job, is just getting footage he's never seen and putting something together.
Absolutely.
And that's a whole nother type of post-production challenge. And honestly, most working editors deal with stuff like that. That's just normal for them. It's us who, we also work on set, but then we also edit.
Right.
We get a different perspective because I'll be on set thinking about the edit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I I'm doing both. But a lot of working editors don't have that luxury. It's just like, here's footage, here's some guidance, good luck, make a story.
It was the first time I was a producer, but had not been on set. And so that was interesting, but like I said, it was time consuming, but definitely well worth it in the end.
Yeah. Now, for younger filmmakers that want to get into like similar documentary storytelling, is it common to have that much footage compared to, like, ultimately you're talking hours and hours for an 84-minute story?
It's not. I know the first crew just kind of kept the cameras rolling. And you don't really want to do that. Otherwise, you really piss off your editor because they'll go on tangents for 30, 40, 50 minutes talking about, this and that, and then my dog, and then this. And you have to go through. That's the second time this has happened. We did another project a few years ago.
Oh, like was that the lawyer one?
Yeah, which did really well. It's aired on national PBS. Bill Gates and his wife saw it, had a screening.
Really?
Yeah. Couldn't believe it.
That's
it's what it was. Had Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Balancing the Scales.
Yeah,
right?
was in it,
and that was another one where you and Sergio
worked on it.
Were kind of the footage was turned over to you.
Yes, and we helped find the story for the director. And she had been making this film since 1994, shooting interviews, and so some of the older people had passed away, but we had them. And talk about footage. Some of the stuff looked like VHS. So we would
probably was.
Yeah. We'd put in the corner like 1994 footage or something like that. Right. And then because some of it was shot in 4K or 1080, so it would kind of go back and forth. But it did well.
Yeah.
I mean, it aired right after Ken Burns made a documentary called Vietnam a few years ago. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And Sergio and I are thinking, okay, it's cool, it's fun, but this will never be seen. No one's going to see this. It's a paycheck. Maybe 300 people will see this. Okay, fine, whatever. We're getting paid. It's good. It's an idea that we like. And then I remember finishing Vietnam, the documentary downstairs. It's 10 p.m. at night, prime time, and the first thing it says is Skydive Films presents Balancing the Scales right after Ken Burns' movie. Knowing
Holy
millions
shit.
upon millions of people are watching this, and Sergio and I were editing this whole thing in his little apartment in Antioch. So we had no idea.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens. And then other projects, this is going to be great. And it doesn't see the light of day. You just don't know.
You don't. It's true.
That's been my track record. If I think it's going to be a hit, it's not. It's the opposite. So Hollywood needs to hire me. Zach, is this good? It sucks. It's going to be #1 at the box office then.
Yeah.
I love it. It's going to tank,
Well, that's why when you all ended up pitching A Darkened Bliss, which is my film, when you went out for Sweet Tooth, and they were like, "That's an interesting idea," but that they didn't go for the script. I was like, "Yes, that's a rite of passage." The Stranger Things guys got like 20 rejections all over Hollywood. Look at them, like that's making it when you get rejected.
Yeah,
you're gonna.
That's your rite of passage.
Yeah, you're gonna end up doing something big.
It's like extra motivation.
Yeah,
just keep you going.
Yeah,
there've been so many scripts that have been rejected that became big hits and concepts. So,
well, it's that's it. You can never take that to heart when you get those rejections, because it even goes for film festivals. Mm-hmm. Film festivals. It's a lot of politics. We know it's like who it's whatever the theme of the festival is that you got to match up with and that sort of thing. And so you get rejected a lot.
Yep.
I have been rejected many times from film festivals, and I just kind of write them off at this point, because the big thing with Hear Me Now was that it got rejected by almost every festival it was submitted to, but got 4 distribution offers at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's like, don't take what happens with festivals or whatever it might be, pitches don't take that to heart, and don't think of yourself as a failure and your idea as a failure. Because it may not be.
Yeah, and so many film festivals are just overrated, too. It doesn't even matter if you get rejected. Just go right to the distribution company. If that's your main goal, like you said, Bill, just skip it.
Yeah.
Save some
Skip
money.
the line.
You don't have to wait 6 months to hear back from some of these festivals. You just go right to the company. If they want it, then, the whole point of going to a festival is exposure and distribution. Mm-hmm. So if you can just skip that process, then sometimes that's the better alternative. Not always, but.
And, we've learned that the festivals where it really matters, where it's like the auction block, are like Sundance and Toronto, South by Southwest, festivals like that, not some of your more local backwoods festivals. and there, if you're showing at one of those festivals, you're just showing it for other filmmakers that also have their films there.
Right.
So what are you really accomplishing? Are you moving the ball?
Well, you get those laurels, like you get to say, like
it looks so cool on Facebook for
the
5
little
minutes,
laurels on your poster. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And and get like 30 of them from these tiny film festivals that no one's heard of. I mean, heck, Corey, you could start your film festival tomorrow.
Yeah. We should.
There you go.
Yeah, like official selection, the Backwater Springs Film Festival. Like all these. There's so many out there. It's ridiculous.
Got to do it for the laurel.
Yes.
Do it for the laurel.
That's what it's for.
Now, Zach, you mentioned an apprentice. Now, tell me, so I know you're engaged in a version of film school with the education process.
Yep.
Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, it's called Film Connection. They're based out of Los Angeles. Been working with them for about 8 years now. And I'm the main apprentice in Nashville. And so I get different students apply here and there. And if we get along, then they hang out with me for 8-10 months, put them on set, and it's right to set. It's not like they have to learn all the their algebra, stuff. This and that, and spend $150,000 a year to get a script writing degree. It's way, way, way cheaper to do it this way. And you make contacts. Film school is great for making contacts, but now it's between $150,000 a year. It's for some of these art degrees like Belmont and things like that. And so they go right into the program. And they also meet people like Bill or Steven or Stryker. And so I introduce them to tons of other filmmakers. I say, if I'm the only filmmaker you know in 10 months, you're screwed. You got to know everybody.
Right.
And you have to show up on sets and work your tail off, and then maybe you'll get hired once you graduate. And some of them have gotten very successful. Mm-hmm. Some of them have moved to Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta. Some are here working full-time. Remember Corey Pitts?
Corey, yeah, he's a Steadicam operator now.
Is that what he's doing now?
He texted me last year, and he was like, hey, if you ever need Steadicam work, hit me up.
Doing art direction. He did all the art direction for Sweet Tooth. He did a phenomenal job. And there was a time he was working 5-6 days a week. He had to turn down work. And he was an apprentice. When he was with me, he was making $9 an hour working in the liquor store. But you do what you have to do. Young guy, got to pay the bills. But he kept with it, worked his tail off, and is doing very, very well now for himself.
And that's a good point to make, is that, and I've seen this because I've worked with a lot of your apprentices, and, I've seen some strong ones and some not so strong ones over time.
You're right.
And you see the ones that the apprentices that have gone on to do this work, to do more, are the ones that were showing up, that were hustling, that were showing up. They showed up early. Like we did, all three of us did the Lucky Scruff commercials a few years ago. And you had Corey Pitts was on that one, and showed up early. These guys don't complain. They do their work. They work hard. They get it done. And that's the mentality. That's the spirit to kind of go on. And these guys that have gone on to be Steadicam operators, and Ryan Davis,
phenomenal.
Like he's doing all kinds of stuff now because
Ryan was an apprentice for you.
Ryan Davis,
Really?
He's great. He was in the new Trace Atkins film, like a stand-in.
Yeah.
And then I would hire him to do some kind of second unit camera work here.
Yeah, because he came out and he helped out on Danny.
That's right, yeah.
And then that's where I met him for the first time.
Him and Chris Dyer were on Danny, so we got everything done.
Yeah.
Very efficiently.
Well, Chris is like 26 crew people in one. He's so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Chris Dyer?
Yeah. Have to give him a big shout out.
Superman.
Oh, yeah.
He really is. I met him almost 20 years ago. Before I met you, I was working at Best Buy, Cool Springs. He was working there, and we were just both big film buffs. I was making some short films, and he would just come on set, knew absolutely nothing, nothing. Worked his way from PA. Now he's constantly busy.
Yeah.
Working on productions.
Yeah. And that's, again, a testament to being just hustling on set. Being there on time.
No drama
early,
either.
No drama.
No Chris.
Just like, yeah, I know, just getting after it.
We've never even remotely had an argument. How could you with Chris Dyer? You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's the nicest guy
ever.
But he's also the most prepared person I've ever met on set.
Oh, yeah.
He's just always ready. And to the point where he jokes about how prepared he is now. Because the last time I worked with him on set, I made some comment about, like, of course you have this stinger or this lens that I need.
Just in your hand.
And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and was like, well, yeah, of course. You're working with me, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been pumping him up so much to him and other places like that it's kind of going to his head. I'm joking.
Not at all.
I'm joking.
He's a great dude.
He's great.
He is wonderful.
I know. And we had, I brought you on to help produce The Devil You Know.
Yeah.
And I think we had 3 apprentices there, Carter, Cynthia.
And Zach.
Zach.
Yeah, the other Zach.
Yeah, other Zach.
Mm-hmm. And they're all writers too. Zach is. We all wrote the short film.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Your latest project, what's it titled?
It's called The Good Mother. It's a 4-minute horror short, and we hope to release it next week or two and take it to some of the festivals, see what happens. But with the film that's 4 minutes, it's really for the internet. So we want to get it out there and just see what happens.
Yep.
Because we have tons of ideas for other shorts and feature. Bill, even we talked about doing something this summer, or it doesn't have to be horror, but
yeah,
putting something together creatively and all working together. But I had the idea in my head for about 15 years and never did anything with it, and then pitched it to Mike Stryker, who kind of had some ideas, pitched it to my apprentices, and I said, if you guys like the idea, let's make it. And they said, heck yeah. Well, let's finish writing, because it was just an outline, that I had. And so we had to flesh out the script and everything, and then able to get a 9,000 square foot mansion in Hendersonville to shoot in, which was Zach's aunt and uncle's house. They were nice enough to let us shoot. And Corey, you were great on that.
Yeah, I was on
Phenomenal.
set. That was great.
It was a great time. So we released the trailer on social media, and we're doing some color correction this week. Sound design is done, and then it is out. I've seen it too many times, and I'm just getting too damn picky.
And it's great.
I never want to watch it again after this.
Well, that always happens, where it's like, it's best to step away. You got to know when to step away from it.
So, yeah, that's our newest narrative project. And like I said, we have The Price of Legacy, the feature documentary, coming out spring or summer.
And that's the wrestling.
Yes. Trace Atkins was our narrator for that.
Oh, cool.
We also had other people that almost did it, but Trace was just phenomenal. We were like, we got to get with him, his voice.
Yeah.
It was a fun piece.
So you've done a lot of documentary work, and we've talked, and you don't like when people refer to you as a documentarian, and I don't either. And I got that from like doing Hear Me Now. People were saying that about me, and I was like, no, I make shit up. I'm a narrative filmmaker.
Yeah.
So would you say that is your preference, is narrative over documentary?
It is. I just call myself a filmmaker or storyteller.
Yeah.
Simple as that, because we do just tell stories. Whether it's a 15-second local spot or it's an hour-and-a-half feature film or a short film, we just want to tell the best stories as possible, because story is where it's at. Have the biggest budget in the world, the best sound, the best acting, your script sucks, the film's going to suck.
Yeah.
So you have to start there and then proceed once you have your story.
Words to live by.
But we like it, to look pretty too. Don't get me wrong.
Well, yeah.
I would say that's just as important as the story.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. We need music. I'm gonna have to get like some lightning round intro music.
Lightning round.
Like an
you should get John Bailey to do that.
Yes, we should.
He would do it.
Do we want to talk about John Bailey for a second?
Yeah. Who is
John Bailey? Is a voice actor or voice artist who Zach and I think, did you just like randomly, how did you find him?
I randomly found him on YouTube, and I was looking for someone that sounded like Peter Cullen, the narrator. He's the Optimus Prime voice, and he did the best Peter Cullen impersonation I've ever seen.
Oh, is this the guy that does the movie trailer?
Yes,
he's the Honest Trailers guy. And his YouTube title is Epic Voice Guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was in Memphis, right? And and he would like leave you voicemails talking in all these voices.
Yes.
But we got him to narrate The Harps.
Yeah.
Which was like a short documentary. And I used to have a podcast, another one, many moons ago in my 20s, and he did his Peter Cullen type voice for the intro for that podcast. And just like really nice guy, just really super into what he does. And he's like out in LA now doing he voiced one of the Decepticons in the Bumblebee movie.
Yeah.
And so he's getting into all kinds of stuff now. So it's pretty cool to see how he's grown from working on little projects with us years ago to like he's out at the Paramount lot.
And if you talk to him on the phone, he's like the most normal guy with a slight country accent.
Yeah.
And then he can just boom like that.
Right into it.
Yeah.
Go right into it and just change it. And whoa, you're Optimus Prime now.
We should totally get him to produce us a lightning round intro.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
That would be cool.
Until then, you're going to have to, this will have to serve lightning round. I don't know. I'll put something over it. All right, here we go. Zach, what is your all-time favorite movie?
Ooh, it has to be Halloween.
Like the original?
Yeah, 1978.
All right. The last movie that you watched?
The Godfather.
One?
Yes, but I'm halfway through part 2. I was watching that last night until 1 a.m.
All right, they're classic.
They are.
Your favorite director?
Tim Burton.
Okay, all right. Most underrated or slept on cinematographer?
Dean Cundey.
I said him in my lightning round.
Did you?
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys.
Jurassic Park.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All day long, my man. All right. This one's a little controversial. Pineapple on pizza?
That is controversial. I'm going to have to say no.
My man.
Now, Mike Stryker, he loves that.
Mike Stryker will order milk at the bar. So
that is disgusting. Favorite camera?
Anything that's a red. Oh, that's right. You have one or two.
Yeah.
Two, yeah. All right. 3 films everyone should see before they die.
Goodfellas. There's a documentary called An American Movie that everyone needs to check out.
I've seen the trailer for that.
It's awesome. It gets me motivated. It came out in the mid-'90s about this low-budget filmmaker trying to make a short film and then make his feature. Just awesome. I've probably seen it 30, 40 times. Then I would have to say Psycho, the original Hitchcock. I'm blown away by how many people have not seen it.
Really?
They think that they have, but what was that?
Well, it's one of those movies that's so iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do think that they've seen it because they've seen all the clips of it.
They just know of it.
Although 95% of the people I hang out with couldn't tell you one movie Spielberg directed, so maybe that's the problem. I know. It's unbelievable.
That makes me want to curl up
You
in a
guys
ball.
are the 5% of my friends that are filmmakers because most of them are not. Yeah. I just need to get more friends that make movies.
Yeah.
That's okay. Zach, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It has been a pleasure catching up.
Yeah.
And chatting. We'll leave links to all of your things in the show notes for today. For our listeners, we know you have a lot of podcast options, and we appreciate you choosing us. Check us out on Instagram at InFocusPod or online at InFocusPodcast.com. To learn more about today's sponsor, Gnome Studios, you can find them online at gnomestudios.co or on Instagram at Gnome Studios. Gnome Studios is located in a century-old warehouse just outside of downtown Nashville and is an amazing full-service recording studio. Check them out for your next project. And if you like what you heard today, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us out a ton. Until next time.
We'll see you later.